Alrighty, hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome. Thank you for watching this video. My name is Justin, and I actually wanted to go over an overview the Times Media TESOL course, at least give you some of the basic information that will be really helpful with trying to decide whether or not this course is for you. And so with this video, I will go over some of the importance of the class and why it is a useful class for educators to take on. And then I'll also give you a demonstration of some content that is taught through this course. And the content that we'll focus on for this video will be classroom management. And for some of you watching who may already be an educator, classroom management is super important. And with it, you end up learning not only how to control your classroom, but you will end up learning how to make a safe learning environment, a caring learning environment where your students are challenged in the proper way in a safe environment. So, the main question of everything with this video is, why TESOL? Why take a TESOL course, right? So, I come up with some of the basic necessities as to why TESOL is important. First and foremost, think of it as, especially if you're an educator now, professional development. You may or may not have, depending, have heard of the term PD. Professional development is when you get to go in and you have outside sources, for example, an outside source come in and teach some content to you. Teach something like some methodology that would help you with teaching in your classroom. Now, with professional development, normally it would happen where someone comes and visits your school. However, you can outsource and go outside of the school to get professional development on your own. And that would be, for example, a TESOL course where you get and obtain a certification that will help you advance or understand more in your career, in your field, in your professional development. So, with a TESOL course, it ends up being part of professional development where you're learning more as to how to teach in a classroom, how to properly teach ESL learners, how to challenge them in new and innovative ways. And that's what you would do with this. So, TESOL course counts as professional development. You're learning more, right? And not only is it professional development, but maybe you're someone who doesn't have a current teaching position, or even if you do, maybe you want to advance here in that career field. Maybe you want to advance into a new position. Whatever it is, it helps you with job security. All right, so it helps you with job security, helps you with finding jobs, helps you with going up, maybe even a pay scale. Sometimes depending on a job, sometimes you can move up in pay scale, right? You have the certificate, now you have more knowledge in the content, that can happen. So again, job security, job searching, especially if you're thinking about going abroad at some point of your life, or even if you're just staying in your own country, it really does help with job security to say, it helps you stand out in front of other applicants who do not have the certificate that you went for. And so that's another reason why the TESOL certificate would be extremely important. So PD, job, boom, done right there. Professional development is going to be key for this class. Travel. Also in traveling, again, if you're someone who wants to end up going somewhere else abroad to teach the English language, you can do that with a TESOL certificate if that's in your plans in the future. Think about it. You can end up being an ESL teacher anywhere in the world with its English speakers or people learning to be English speakers. And you can go there and end up teaching a language that you learned to love, or you learned that grew on you, whatever it is, right? And so now that you have this professional development, again, it helps you stand out in the job market. All right. Next, we have culture. Culture, you get to learn about culture. When we teach a language, it is so important that we teach our students about the culture that language comes from. Okay? And so the culture for this one would obviously be, for English, maybe European. If you're teaching British English, maybe you teach European culture. If it's more American English, then you're going to teach American culture with the language. It helps the students understand the context and so on and so forth. So you get to experience new culture, right? And again, if you're ever traveling, it really is useful to think, oh wow, you know what? I learned a lot of this culture in a class that I took, right? And so with TESOL, you're learning a lot mostly from maybe an English speaker who lived abroad in America or wherever else, and they can share their experiences with helping you understand a culture, a new culture. After culture, we have pay raises. And so again, that's more of a job security. That doesn't guarantee that you would get a pay raise at a job, but it's something that will help you out where in the future, if you are searching for a job, if you are currently searching for one, you can negotiate as you would have that certificate, and it would be really beneficial. All right? And again, you can travel around anywhere in the world and say, hey, I have this certificate, and it'll be really useful to help you stand out among applicants. Next is problem-solving skills. Problem-solving skills are something where if a problem arises, you have a plan B. You can critical think. It's something that we teach our students to do in class when they are working on their classwork. How to problem solve, right? And so as a teacher, you also need to know how to problem solve. And so if there are any kind of issues in the classroom, you need to know how to address those issues. And so, for example, let's say that you're teaching and this brilliant lesson planned. So you have this brilliant lesson planned. And within the lesson, you have certain students missing. They're absent. And in your lesson plan, you were supposed to have all these groups, different things like that with these students, but there are students missing. What do you do? That is a classic case scenario that happens with many new teachers, and then they freak out, or even present teachers. It even happens to me sometimes. And so you have to sit there and think, what is my plan B, right? You have to make assumptions and say, okay, if this goes wrong, I have to know what I'm going to do as a plan B. And so problem-solving skills are something that come into play with the TESOL course, and you will be sitting there and learning how to problem solve through different scenarios to help practice and make you a better educator, right? And connecting with problem solving, you don't just listen to the teacher tell you, oh, this is how you problem solve, or give you examples on paper. You get to experience it as you would be doing something called micro teaching in the classroom. And what micro teaching in the classroom is you actually have the opportunity in the Times Media TESOL course to teach multiple times in front of your peers who will be your students, and you get to teach them whatever topic that is given. And if something goes wrong, you get to problem solve on the spot. You get to practice that, so then you can end up taking that, and then you get teacher feedback, so then you can end up making it better next time, and then in your actual job, you can feel confident that you know how to problem solve if any issue were to or would happen. And so problem solving is key practice that you get hands-on practice with in the Times Media TESOL course. Now, problem-solving skills then come with, problem solving is something called higher order thinking. And it's something you'll get to hear when you're in certain TESOL classes. And what that means is you would be able, your goal for your students is to have them complete higher order thinking. So you will learn not only how to do it yourself, but you will practice it in the TESOL classroom, higher order thinking activities, and you'll get to learn how to create higher order thinking problems for your students. Not just problems, but activities, right? Not just worksheets, but activities that get the students moving and thinking. And it's gonna make them really critical think and problem solve, which is so key important, because with a Times Media TESOL course, you get to learn the skills that will help your students learn useful tools to survive, not only in the classroom, but in everyday life. Because we critical think, we complete higher order thinking multiple times in a day. All right, and so we want to get our students prepared with real life examples, and you will learn that in the TESOL course. And not just higher order thinking, but your cover letter, your resume that becomes so important. You get to tack that onto your resume now that you have the credentials to teach ESL learners, English learners. And so that's another reason why it would be crucial to have something like this, right? Because then again, with that employment, with the job searching or whatever it is, or at your current job, now you can say, hey, I have this. I have proof that not only am I a great teacher in the classroom, but I actually went above and beyond and got that training needed to help me make sure I'm reaching out to all level learners. And that's going to help you, again, stand out when you do job search, or if you're currently at a job, it can help you really with promoting yourself or whatever it is that you need to do to make sure that you show everyone like, hey, I can ensure my students are learning the best way that they can. I can reach out to all level learners in the English speaking classroom and ensure they reach the curriculum material to help them succeed. All right? And so with that being said, this also enhances your teaching skills, okay? Your teaching skills become enhanced. They become better, you become stronger as a teacher, okay? Again, you get to learn real time how to problem solve different situations or errors that you might anticipate in a classroom, right? Any kind of anticipated error that can happen while you are teaching, you will learn how to come across those errors and become a better teacher, how to problem solve. So again, this enhances your teaching skills because it is a type of professional development. This class is a type of professional development that will help you with becoming a critical thinking educator to help your students become critical thinkers as well. Okay? And then knowledge. Knowledge about the spoken language English is something that you'll also get a more better grasp at. Okay? With this, you not only get to learn how to teach the language, but you're learning a little bit of the language. Now, this class, however, is not an English ESL class where you're learning how to speak and practice pronunciation, right? You're learning more so how to teach it. But with it, you'll come across different times when you have to actually revisit different grammar rules and things like that and become more confident in your capabilities of the language and then be able to teach it. And so you are, at the same time, you're becoming more knowledgeable about the spoken language English, which again, will be beneficial for you as an educator. Again, it is a professional development type course that will help you, okay? And so with that, something very, very important that is talked about more so in 21st century teaching, right, is acceptance and diversity, okay? And so with acceptance and diversity, we need to ensure that our students, no matter what level they are, a beginner in English, intermediate, upper level, or maybe you have an inclusion class where you have students who are advanced and beginner in the same class. That happens many times when you are a teacher, right? But you have to make sure that you are diverse. You are a diverse educator, that you know how to reach out to all the different levels of learners. You need to know how to modify your assignment for the lower levels, for the higher levels, so everyone is challenged but still learning the same content, the same material. And with the TESOL Times Media class, you will learn that. You will learn the skills that will help you become an educator and practice again through your micro teaching that I talked about earlier. You'll get to practice how to be diverse and accepting and making sure all different level learners in your classroom are able to complete your course, are able to meet the objectives, the goals of your curriculum. All right, so again, this professional development will help you become an accepting and diverse educator. Now, not only do you get knowledge about how to teach, but also thinking about your students, you also get knowledge of the child or human development in general. All right, there'll be times we talk about the developmental stages of the child, right? The child from low level to high level, you're going to learn the different cognitive processes and which helps you understand how to reach out and teach these different learners. You're going to learn about different methodologies, all right, that you can use and put into practice to help your students learn and grow as learners, okay? So with that being said, again, why is TESOL important? There are many reasons, but for the Times Media TESOL course, think of it as a way, as a professional development to help enhance your teaching skills. And if you are brand new to teaching, it'll help you become a confident educator when you walk into the classroom for all of your students. All right, hello everyone, this is Justin again, and I want to now give you an example of some of the content that can be covered in the Times Media TESOL course. Now, this example, normally the students would be working in peers talking or having whole class discussions. However, for this demo lesson only, I will be showing you more of a traditional style where it's more lecture style of me talking to the students, okay? And so now I want to talk about the umbrella term classroom management, okay? Classroom management is super important. It's something that many educators get passionate about, and for those of you who are educators, you may have heard the term classroom management many times, and there are many different definitions that people would give you. However, the most common would be that it basically is anything from any of these that I'm going to give you. There are multiple different definitions. But for example, it can be forming groups. Forming groups. Forming groups in your classroom, which means grouping your students, and arranging seating. So forming groups and arranging the seats for your students, for example, giving them assigned seats from day one would be super important. It would be crucial. No matter what age group you teach, if from day one you set the expectation that there are assigned seats or like there are groupings, whatever it is that you have to do, it really helps with the flow of class. It'll help students realize like, this is a class where I have to follow expectations. I have to follow rules. And sometimes you'll have students who kind of push those boundaries, but if you keep to those expectations, it will be fine, all right? So I suggest from day one, you have those boundaries set where you have the same assigned seats, so on and so forth. Now, something I will say about giving assigned seating to students is that you don't want to change the assigned seats more than twice in a school year. I apologize. Once if you can, but no more than 2 to 3 times maybe, because the more you keep changing assigned seats, the more students complain or, I want to sit next to this person, I want to sit next to that. But if you do it only like twice in the year, there's less chance of that, less of a headache for you. And so I suggest that. So seating arrangements and groupings and pairings is very important. And also, when you're putting students in pairs and groups, I know with coronavirus going on, it makes it difficult to do that. However, if there is a time that you do have to do that, something I suggest is over time, like yes, sometimes it's okay to let students choose who they work with. However, if you let that happen too often, students will become, you'll notice that they get very cliquey, where they want to work with only their friends. And you want to avoid that. So something I suggest is doing something where you choose at random. It's random to them, but not to you, where the students are put into groups. For example, you can have a stack of cards like regular poker cards, and you shuffle them in a certain order and let your students all take a card, right? And when they get their card, they go to their matching colors or symbols like hearts over here, diamonds over there. They think it's random, however, you shuffled it in a way that these students will be put in groups that you wanted them in, right? So there are ways that you can make it seem like you're not always choosing the groupings, because yes, students, no matter what the age group, from kindergarten all the way up to high school, they will complain when they get forced into groups too often. However, there are ways that you can be in the teacher mode, right? And you can actually still get the groupings you would like to see, but make it look like it's random. So that's something important part of classroom management is the assigned seating, having these expectations set out, and groupings and pairs. And when you put students in groupings and pairs, you also want to make sure that you're not always putting advanced students always together, beginners always together. Mix it up a little. You know, you might not want an advanced student and a beginner, but maybe a lower intermediate and a beginner, things like that. Mix up the pairings and groupings when they're working together. It'll really become beneficial because students learn best when they're together. It's not always learning from the teacher. We have to get comfortable with taking risks and letting students learn from each other. So moving on, there is also planning. Planning, something that all teachers do is planning, right? Lesson planning. So planning. And with the Times Media TESOL course, we learned 2 different styles of lesson plans that a teacher would create and that teachers practice. That is the PPP method and the TBL method of lesson planning, right? And with these different styles of planning, we learn how to engage our students, how to have our students tell us what they know, and we learn how to make it more student-centered and not always teacher-centered, right? Well, we have some talk back and forth between students and teachers. However, planning is key, and it falls under the umbrella term classroom management, okay? So classroom management, again, planning, lesson planning is super important, okay? And so with that, you'll learn how to do, also there's different activities you can do in planning, where such as you have something called an SOS activity, where at the end of an activity, end of a lesson, if you still have time left, right? You still have time left, you have a 50-minute class, but you only did 40 minutes of everything you planned and there's still time left, what do? Something I suggest strongly is never give free time. Never, never, never. No. This is an opportunity for you to let your students continue to learn. Your students can continue to learn with that extra time. So what you want to do is, with something called in planning, we have SOS activity in the TESOL language of classes, right? And what that is basically an extra activity that you can use that revolves around the topic you were teaching in class, and give your students a fun activity to do. Maybe it's a game or something like that that'll last 10 minutes or so, right? And so always have that backup plan. And so that's part of planning. It's part of classroom management. You're keeping everything in order, right? Never show your students that you are stressed because of time, right? Never show them that, oh my God, I still have 20 minutes left of class and I finished my main activity. Don't show them that. Don't show them that, and have the backup plan planned. You pull out your lesson plan and then you know what to do. So that's something, again, that you'll get to continue to practice, is the planning aspect. All right? And next with planning, establishing authority. Now, establishing authority or relinquishing it, right? Maybe you lost it. Sometimes we have classes that are tough. We have tough students sometimes, right? There's always that one student you're like, oh, you're never out. You're always here, right? You have that one student sometimes, or more than one. And sometimes you do lose control by mid-year. You're like, okay, we have to get the rules back in place. Establish from day one a plan of some sort, expectations, right? Something I suggest, if you are a teacher for little ones, or if you're going to teach little ones, younger age groups, like lower elementary, kindergarten, create the rules with them. Create the rules with them so they feel like they are in control of the learning time. That really helps students. And it shows there's no excuse that anyone should misunderstand what the expectations are. Now, also have a plan. Something I like to call a tier system. T-I-E-R. Tier system. And with that, you want to make sure that you have a system that is in place that students follow and know what will happen if there's a consequence, if they break a rule. For example, for me, if I'm teaching, let's say, upper elementary school, my students know that first strike, I restate to the whole class, and I advise this for all of my TESOL students, is if a student breaks an expectation, just repeat to the entire class what the expectation is, or have students tell you, and most of them will know what the expectation is. And then that's it, you reset the expectations again. If that student again breaks a rule again, then you have your second tier, which for me, for example, could be, okay, now I'm going to ask my student to step outside of class and I'm going to talk to them one-on-one, okay? And it doesn't get confrontational. You don't want to ever be like, why did you do this? Why are you doing this, right? Instead, I like to ask something more like restorative questions, where I can ask my student, well, what's going on? What's wrong? Why are we acting like this? What are you thinking in this moment, right? Or something I like to say to my students that usually always works, no matter with what age group is, oh, I have respect for you. I thought you have respect for me. And then usually they say, oh, I do, or something like that, right? Your students care about you. Even if they don't show it, sometimes they do. And so when you word things like that, and instead of coming off more aggressive, you don't have to demand it in that way for them to give you respect, but if you ask them certain questions It'll help them realize, like, okay, I was in the wrong. And they usually admit it, and they can come back to class. However, my third step was always, okay, third tier, students not cooperating. They broke the expectation after I already repeated to the class what they should know, what they should be doing. I already talked to the student one-on-one. Now it's time to contact a parent maybe, or set up a meeting with a parent, anything like that, right? And so that was an example that I just made up that I could do with students. However, always have your own examples of expectations that you can do with your students, okay? All right. And so, again, that falls under the umbrella term classroom management, okay? And even if you have to relinquish, even if you had an expectation, you had a system set up with your students, right? You had a whole system of expectations for your students set up. And maybe with these expectations, things fell apart. It was mid-year. It's after winter break, right? You have to reset again. You have to go over them. So something I suggest is that you always have it up on the wall somewhere, posted somewhere, all of the list of expectations, and review it with your students, right? At the beginning of the school year, review it every day. In the middle of the school year, keep reviewing it. If it's after a long break, review the expectations, right? Give an activity where the students have to write out the expectations so you can check if they remember the expectations, right? Get it embedded in their head that they have to remember the expectations of your class. So make sure you have those set of rules set up from day one. And if you didn't, make them as soon as possible and help remind students each and every day. And have it up on the wall somewhere, posted, right? We want those visual aids because then there is no excuse for a student to say, oh, I didn't know what the rule was or something like that, right? Have it up at all times and review it. Have it in student sight. It'll be really, truly helpful, okay? And last but not least, something else that's really important that with this TESOL class you'll get to have hands-on practice with is icebreakers and warmer activities, okay? Many of you know what an icebreaker is, all right? But however, you have to really think of the steps it takes to plan an icebreaker, okay? And so we'll be reviewing that later on where you get to decide to plan your own icebreaker, but it's broken up into different sections, okay? There's different steps that whether you realize it or not, when you plan an icebreaker, you're following certain steps. Same thing with a warmer activity. If you do not know what a warmer is yet, you will end up learning and you will have hands-on practice with a warmer, okay? We want to get our students ready and excited for the content they are going to learn, okay? All right, and so that is it for this demo lesson today, and I hope to see some of you soon. Have a great rest of your day.